Welcome to this unique recording of the King James Version of the Bible. This is a light revision by Webster made in 1833. Though it's been over 2 centuries, no one has made an audio recording of this Bible, to my knowledge. This is the Holy Bible, read by Isaiah Kidira, containing the Old and New Testaments in the Common Version with amendments of the language, by Webster, LLD, published in 1833. Here is the original preface by Webster. The English version of the sacred scriptures, now in general use, was first published in the year 1611 in the reign of James I. Although the translators made many alterations in the language of former versions, yet no small part of the language is the same as that of the versions made in the reign of Queen Elizabeth. In the present version, the language is, in general, correct and perspicuous, the genuine popular English of Saxon origin, peculiarly adapted to the subjects, and in many passages uniting sublimity with beautiful simplicity. In my view, the general style of the version ought not to be altered. But in the lapse of 2 or 3 centuries, changes have taken place, which, in particular passages, impair the beauty, and others obscure the sense, of the original languages. Some words have fallen into disuse, and the signification of others in popular current use is not the same now as it was when they were introduced into the version. The effect of these changes is that some words are not understood by common readers who have no access to commentaries, and who will always compose a great proportion of readers, while other words, being now used in a sense different from that which they had when the translation was made, present a wrong signification or false ideas. Whenever words are understood in a sense different from that which they had when they were first introduced, and different from that of the original languages, they do not present to the reader the Word of God. This circumstance is very important, even in things not the most essential, and in essential points mistakes may be very injurious. In my own view of this subject, a version of the Scriptures for popular use should consist in words expressing the sense which is most common in popular usage, so that the first idea suggested to the reader should be the true meaning of such words according to the original languages. That many words in the present version fail to do this is certain. My principal aim is to remedy this evil. The inaccuracies in grammar, such as which for who, his for its, shall for will, should for would, and others, are very numerous in its present version. There are also some quaint and vulgar phrases which are not relished by those who love a pure style, and which are not in accordance with the general tenor of the language. To these may be added many words and phrases very offensive to delicacy and even to decency. In the opinion of all persons with whom I have conversed on this subject, such words and phrases ought not to be retained in the version. Language which cannot be uttered in company without a violation of decorum or the rules of good breeding exposes the Scriptures to the scoffs of unbelievers, impairs their authority, and multiplies or confirms the enemies of our holy religion. These considerations, with the approbation of respectable men, the friends of religion and good judges of this subject, have induced me to undertake the task of revising the language of the common version of the Scriptures, and of presenting to the public an edition with such amendments as will better express the true sense of the original languages, and remove objections to particular parts of the phraseology. In performing this task, I have been careful to avoid unnecessary innovations and to retain the general character of the style. The principal alterations are comprised in 3 classes. 1. The substitution of words and phrases now in good use, for such as are wholly obsolete or deemed below the dignity and solemnity of the subject. 2. The correction of errors in grammar. 3. The insertions of euphemisms, words, and phrases which are not very offensive to delicacy, in the place of such as cannot, with propriety, be uttered before a promiscuous audience. A few errors in the translation, which are admitted on all hands to be obvious, have been corrected, and some obscure passages illustrated, In making these amendments, I have consulted the original languages and also several translations and commentaries. In the body of the work, my aim has been to preserve, but in certain passages, more clearly to express, the sense of the present version. The language of the Bible has had no inconsiderable influence in forming and preserving our national language. On this account, the language of the common version ought to be correct in grammatical construction and in the use of appropriate words. This is the more important, as men who are accustomed to read the Bible with veneration are apt to contract a predilection for its phraseology, and thus to become attached to phrases which are quaint or obsolete. This may be a real misfortune, for the use of words and phrases, when they have ceased to be a part of the living language, and appear odd or singular, impairs the purity of the language, and is apt to create a disrelish for it in those who have not, by long practice, contracted a like predilection. It may require some effort to subdue this predilection, but it may be done, and for the sake of the rising generation it is desirable. The language of the Scriptures ought to be pure, chaste, simple, and perspicuous, free from any words or phrases which may excite observation by their singularity, and neither debased by vulgarisms nor tricked out with the ornaments of affected elegance. As there are diversities of tastes among men, it is not to be expected that the alterations I have made in the language of the version will please all classes of readers. Some persons will think I have done too little, others too much, and probably the result would be the same were a revision to be executed by any other hand, or even by the joint labors of many hands. All I can say is, that I have executed this work in the manner which, in my judgment, appeared to be the best. To avoid giving offense to any denomination of Christians, I have not knowingly made any alteration in the passages of the present version, on which the different denominations rely for the support of their peculiar tenets. In this country there is no legislative power which claims to have the right to prescribe what version of the Scriptures shall be used in the churches, or by the people, and as all human opinions are fallible, it is doubtless for the interest of religion that no authority should be exercised in this case, except by commendation. At the same time, it is very important that all denominations of Christians should use the same version, that in all public discourses, treatises, and controversies, the passages cited as authorities should be uniform. Alterations in the popular version should not be frequent, but the changes incident to all living languages render it not merely expedient, but necessary at times to introduce such alterations as will express the true sense of the original languages in the current language of the age. A version thus amended may require no alteration for 2 or 3 centuries to come. In this undertaking I subject myself to the charge of arrogance, but I am not conscious of being actuated by any improper motive. I am aware of the sensitiveness of the religious public on this subject, and of the difficulties which attend the performance, but all men whom I have consulted, if they have thought much on the subject, seem to be agreed in the opinion that it is high time to have a revision of the common version of the Scriptures, although no person appears to know how or by whom such revision is to be executed. In my own view, such revision is not merely a matter of expedience, but of moral duty. And as I have been encouraged to undertake this work by respectable literary and religious characters, I have ventured to attempt a revision upon my own responsibility. If the work should fail to be well received, the loss will be my own, and I hope no injury will be done. I have been painfully solicitous that no error should escape me. The reasons for the principal alterations introduced will be found in the explanatory notes. The Bible is the chief moral cause of all that is good, and the best corrector of all that is evil in human society. The best book for regulating the temporal concerns of men, and the only book that can serve as an infallible guide to future felicity. With this estimate of its value, I have attempted to render the English version more useful by correcting a few obvious errors, and removing some obscurities with objectionable words and phrases. And my earnest prayer is that my labors may not be wholly unsuccessful. Noah Webster, New Haven, September 1833.